I've been pretty vocal about some of the things that I experienced as a child, and just believing that at a young age, I don't know, maybe around uh, 10 or 7 or so, um, just really coming to the conclusion that life was not meant for us to suffer. That what I was seeing in the world contradicted what I knew intuitively. That I believed that something out there loved me and wanted me to have a good life. And that seed was sown into my heart at a very young age that have allowed me to look not just for the positive things in life. What I prayed for one day in our first home as a child is I prayed to know the truth. I prayed for truth. And lo and behold, I received a few things. I received the Bible, I received a bookmark with the Lord's Prayer, and then I started watching the televised Easter specials of Jesus. And there I began to see that not every man is alike. And that again, another seed was sown into my heart, a seed of faith through it all, a seed of expectation, a seed of ask and you shall receive. Things that I did as a child, I would ask for things or hide it in my heart, and things would happen be right before my eyes. I would get whatever it is that I wanted to ask for and that I wanted. And one thing that I've noted over the years is that we can separate, either fully to one extreme, or, to separate a little bit from the knowing that we had as a child. And it's our experiences, it's, letting our experiences basically define us, letting our experiences deter us, letting our experiences be what life is all about. And it's not. And I remember one day, so all of this happened, I started the seed that was sown that something loved me, and then the seed of being a student of life. And I realized that life is like this classroom where you're practicing things, you're learning things, you have a place to try out what you learn, like a big science experiment. And if it doesn't work, then you can refine things and move on. And one day I was sitting in our second home, the dining room, and I stood up, and I just felt like this joy jolt. It was something that was a pleasant yet alarming kind of feeling about me, about whatever was moving through my body, right? And it went from down up, and it caressed my heart, and it invigorated my mind to be so grateful that I had a mother that was humble enough to share her experiences, the fact base. She wasn't name calling. She didn't, um, curse a lot, but she shared her experiences. And, I realized that over the years, I just kind of, I sowed those in my garden, my inner garden. And I realized how they helped me to get where I was. It was a long time in my 20s before I even learned about sexual abuse and its complications, the complications associated with it. And even now they talk about chronic health conditions. We have all these mental um, conditions, turmoils within the mind, along with turmoils in the body, chronic health, preventative health conditions. Um, and just over the years, my mother shared over 50 some odd lessons. And I actually turned those lessons into principles. That's where I started building my foundation, and I didn't even hear until I was much older that if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything, right? And so intuitively I knew that I needed to build or create a life in such a way that I would cause less harm to others, that I would be able to navigate life without experiencing some of the things that I had experienced, right? Without just really, as I got older, experiencing some of those consequences. And I think about these seasons that are coming up. We're in November, and I just thought about it actually as I was sitting down to get ready to record this. That we have Thanksgiving, we have the holiday season coming up, right? So Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And I know often, and I remember feeling that way, that we don't want to be around people that we feel have projected their pain on us. It kind of can set a somber mood. We stay away from them. We start kind of sometimes rehashing what we went through with that person, especially if we see them. And again, I don't think our lives was meant that's not what we are here to do. We're not here to struggle with some of the things that we're struggling with the depression and anxiety, and with diabetes and all of that stuff. I think that when we violate these laws that govern the universe, that govern life, that governs our bodies, when we start to break those laws, then we start to experience the chaos that we're seeing today. We start experiencing that inner battle that we have inside of our heart and in our minds. And create a generational love cycle. This podcast is about undoing those thoughts that have created, again, the chaos that we see in the world, right? Because thoughts precede action, ideas, seeds, that every day there are seeds that are available in our life, whether we go to work, to school, with our spouse, our children. There are plentiful of seeds, and many of that get dropped into our internal garden, and we don't even realize it. And it's these principles that will help, that I believe help guide you in clearing away, and also to helping to put experiences in perspective, making you more conscious, more aware. Because that was one of the things that I wanted to do, is I wanted to become more conscious and aware of the things, the ideas, the things that are going on in my mind. Because again, I didn't want to project the type of pain that I felt, that I experienced, on others. I became more aware of what was going on, more aware of my feelings, my emotions, and that deterred me from drinking my emotions away, or smoking, or doing drugs, or using sex as a means to cover up or to hide from the truth. If I was feeling sad or blue, then I felt sad or blue. My feelings were my feelings. And so I believe that helped me in them not to um, take over me, not to continue to harvest in me, because I didn't want to acknowledge them. And I've also experienced the other side, where you don't want to acknowledge your feelings. You just take stuff in because you're so busy and you're not paying attention to your inner garden, right? As a mother, a new mother, that so much stuff can happen. So many things that can frustrate you, that you kind of just tuck it away and say, I'll just deal with it another day, right? And so as I am in my next chapter of my life, and as we prepare for another year, God willing, that it's important, I believe, to continue on Fridays. And it's not so much on Fridays, but every single day. But to continue on Fridays, to really to assess our inner gardens. Every day we should be doing that, right? As we dress our bodies, we should be addressing our minds and addressing those symptoms that our bodies are sending out to us, and say, hey, we're kind of off tilter here. I need you to address this before before we kind of give out or fall out. My mother would tell us, one of her principles is, nothing happens overnight. So when I think about Fridays is kind of like that trash day, where you really just kind of you've collected trash all this week. You've pitched some of that trash, but really take time to really go through and say, hey, what am I feeling right now? What's going on with me? What has been going on? What symptoms am I having? Am I getting frequent headaches? Am I feeling sick? Am I feeling tired? Am I feeling depressed? What's consistently happening to me? Because whatever it is, again, it's something that is built up over time. And so, as you know, Mondays, I was doing heart to heart Mondays, and I will be starting that back up. But Fridays is kind of like take out the trash because something is happening before Monday that is causing people to have these cardiac events, right? And not saying that that's the only day, but majority of the time they say research points to Monday as being that day where we actually start our weeks back up and start back to work. And I think that we can be in this rush mode that we're not really living our life consciously, that we're living unconsciously. We're going through the motions. We develop habits, and many of those habits are not helping us. If anything, it's causing us to shrink more from who we are to something that we're not. And so I'm going to use this podcast. I use it as a radio. As you know, I haven't done pictures, but I use this as a radio, and then I come on live with Facebook and YouTube. But my podcast, Create a Generational Love Cycle, is about Wednesdays, the seeds that we plant, because that's really tackling what those seeds that we consciously more of consciously do and unconsciously do to not only ourselves but also our children, and how we can break that generational cycle of pain by really evaluating those thoughts and what we're passing on to our children. Because I know the cliche, they are the future leaders. Well, how are we preparing them? What are we doing? And often whatever it is, it starts at home. And then Fridays is taking out the trash, healing from the inside out. Not just that, because as a trained nurse, over 20 years of experience, I've taken care of wounds, physical wounds, and how even in myself, the wounds I get, that the healing has to come from within. That's why you have the immune system, your red blood cells, the white blood cells, and they go and they help clean up that debris and help your body to heal from the inside out. And we know that when you heal from the outside in, that can break your skin can come open. You can get an infection. It can get worse than what it was. And that's what we're dealing with a lot that I've seen over the years, is that we're often trying to look on the outside to have healing occur on the inside, right? We're grabbing things like alcohol, drugs, sex, and we're trying to use that to cover up our wounds. But in actuality, all it does is it makes it deeper. It really, makes that wound go deep and really into the bedrock of our heart, which is the soil for those seeds to grow and to populate and to extend to our nervous system, which is the channel, the vine, the communication system of our body, leading to physical and emotional symptoms. And so, again, yes, healing is something that is good for us, but we want to do it in such a way that we heal from the inside out, that we have a fresh perspective about our lives, that we everything that we do, anything that we have not addressed will come out. And you've seen it. If we have not, often people say money's the root of evil, or that he wasn't good, he wasn't bad until he got money. Well, that was something in him. Money just brought out what was already in him or her. And so when we think about the things that are going on today, especially among those that have, the abundance, that are physically have it now, the money, the prestige, the influence, and there are things that are going on in a personal life because those things have not been addressed. And I don't believe it's too late to do that. Um, I don't believe it. I believe that consciousness is something to be sought after, no matter what stage you are in your life, whether you're a child as I was, or whether you're an adult. And so I want to continue to use this platform to share those things that are, I believe, that are really essential. As I talk about my mother's words of wisdom, and I'll mention one today as I um, and give you some important concepts. But as I share, I've shared it through my work. I've shared it in different situations, and I often felt, man, if they had these words, these principles, this would have helped them. I believe it would have helped them, and I've used them, and they have helped people, and they, help people typically to have a better life or a better perspective on life. Um, and so healing from the inside out is going to be on Friday. Seeds We Plant is on Wednesdays. And I'll share one of the most important principles that I'm going to share with you today is one that I believed helped me throughout so many things, not only just to heal from my childhood experiences, but as I continue to become an adult, how it has been instrumental and me not giving up. There are so many people that, I don't, not saying this in a negative way, but so many that have given up. Where we think that, and I, no judgment. I don't know what they went through. All I know is that I believe this principle, after all that I've been through, has kept me here. Um, and the principle is live another day. You never know what tomorrow may bring. And for me, that gave me hope. That gave me hope that even though I may hurt today, I may feel sad today, I may feel all these different emotions, tomorrow could be better. Now I've had days where you kind of felt, and honestly, I don't know if it just became a self-fulfilling prophecy now that I think about this, but I've had days, I've had a day or a couple of days or so that I didn't feel my best, but there was sun. There was sun the next day. There was a light. There was a revelation. When I allowed myself to really feel the moment, to feel my emotions, there was some revelation that I had, some blessing that I got, even just recently, where my daughter's dancing musical theater class was changed from a Thursday late evening to an early Wednesday. The opportunity, was given to us. And so often when I've gone through those kind of lows and the roller coaster of life, those lows, that there's something that came out of it, just like a storm, right? The storm that I realized as a child would provide so much clarity. And what I want to encourage you to think about is that life is a journey. Not only did it provide hope that things, could get better, that there was an expectation there that I'm going to expect and things to get better. And what we think about the law of attraction, right? Sowing that expectation, faith, sowing that expectation. So not only did it give me hope, but it also helped with my faith, right? Because that's what I started cultivating as a child with the Bible, with reading, and I never did say that I was religious. It was all about um, learning to be what Wayne Dyer said, Christ-like. He's the one that kind of helped me put that into words, being Christ-like. So Christ to me was about spirit, made by spirit and human, just like I believe we are human and spirit, and to be more of him, more like him, those characteristics, which we already have. It's just a matter of us expressing it. We have free will, free choice to express what it is that we want to express. And so live another day gave me hope. It helped with faith, um, expectation, that I expected it to be better. And many times I've said that if I've been in an argument with my husband, I expect great things. I'm expect the best from him, and I would see the best, something that he would do. I would do that for my children. I would do that for myself. I would do that for my life. And whether it's a parking spot, it's a savings on groceries, whatever it is. And then it also helped you to look for the positive things in life, look for the things that were going well. And so I use that, no matter what I was going through, what can tomorrow bring? If I've gone this low, what can tomorrow, tomorrow has to be a higher, and so keeping those expectations, because you can say, well, today sucked, tomorrow will suck, having a negative view, and that's different. But to really take the principle to heart, you're going to look for something. You're going to hope for something best. You're going to have faith that something out there loves you and wants you to have a good life. You're going to have faith in yourself and your abilities. You're going to expect things. You're going to look for the more positive things in life, right? To really take that principle to heart. And that is a seed that I hope that you will sow. That's a seed that I have sown. That's a seed that has kept me thinking that life could get better, and really appreciating, I think, the journey. Another thing, because when things do kind of you feel like things are getting kind of low, it's like, when you realize, man, I've gone this, I've been here, and now look at me now. I'm sure there might be others, hopefully, that have felt that way when they were poor or didn't have much, and look at me now. So it's like a newfound appreciation for your journey, because then you appreciate not only the good things, but also the stuff. And you can label it bad if you want, or you can label it just experiences, period. The experiences that can be perceived as bad, and how they got you where you are. And what would you think about if you are someone who reads the Bible as part of your spiritual um, alignment, or evolving, or evolution? That if you read the Bible, it reminds you of the story to tell of Joseph, the story of Joseph, and how, all the things that he went through. But he said that basically to his brothers, that what you meant for evil, God meant for good. So that was an appreciation of, yes, I did go through that. Yes, you did do that. But it also, too, I appreciate where I am, that I know this was part of my journey. And that is a knowing that can really bring gratitude to your heart, right? That it wasn't because of what you went through that you survived. You kept moving forward. And that it wasn't all about just laughter and fun and games, but it was more of really, like, kind of fine tuning yourself, kind of setting you up, if you will, for this big unfolding, right? That this big unfolding. And I believe I just recently, Oprah had said, I was listening to a podcast, that everything that you've been through will have its place in your life. In other words, paraphrasing everything you've been doing. I believe that every experience is what I say. Every experience is the foundation for the next experience. So if we look at life that way, if we look at it in a spiritual perspective, that no experiences define us, that every experience is going to build on the next one, that we have treasures that populate like Mario Brothers, and all these when you hit something and all these treasures come out, that we have treasures which are learned things that we learn that will help guide us. So I hope today, just in giving you a fresh perspective of this podcast, and my aim is all about the thoughts and the heart. I know a lot of books talk about the thoughts and affirmations, but I too want to say about the heart, mention the heart, because the heart is the center of us. It is the fertile soil. It is where seeds are sown and seeds are cultivated, and where they blossom to fruit, right? Fruit that is can be nourishing, or it can be infected and leave us sick, right? Physically and mentally unhealthy. And so, as you think about this principle, live another day, um, I hope that you will decide to plant it or something similar to your foundation, that whatever you are going through, to see the bigger picture in it all, that it is not meant to harm you, but it is meant for your good. And I know it's hard to see it while you're in the situation. That's why it's so important to live another day, so you can see the full picture of it outside of that experience. This is Timika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle, speaking about healing from the inside out. because we don't want superficial healing, right? I don't think anybody really wants that. You don't want to constantly be dealing with that unless you have identified with that pain, unless you have identified with it. But to really experience life as it was meant to experience, if you think you got it good, try healing from the inside out and see where that leads you to that spiritual alignment of human and spirit, right? And to enjoy life again as God would have you to enjoy, and to really maximize your gifts and talents. And I hope to be sharing that because I believe that with true expression comes it comes from healing from the inside out. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care of yourself. Have a fantastic weekend. Live another day because you never know what tomorrow may bring.